What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I just restarted the stream and I don't really know what YouTube is doing. But hopefully this live is happening now through the software. And let me know if you do hear the live chat and the audio. Uh, Hopefully you're seeing it now and it's coming through properly. We do have a lot to talk about today. In the past couple weeks, there's been a lot of news items coming out about the possibility of the DJI drone ban. And since then, it has kind of expanded upon its wording for the ban of Chinese drones. So what that may mean in the future, that really determines a lot for where we're going to go as a community. And we're going to talk about some possible alternatives today. We're going to talk about builders. We're going to talk about people that build their own FPV drones. I know some people are like, oh, well, I'll just build my own. We're going to talk about some USA alternatives for flight controllers. And I'm going to bring you some more information on that coming up. There are some companies in the US that make FPV drone flight controllers. So not all is lost yet, but there will also be some people that are, wondering whether they can fly their existing components, whether they can fly something like the Caddx Vistas that you don't have to connect to the internet. Also the original air units, and something as nefarious as this, which apparently is on the list for possible espionage, and it seems kind of crazy. But I feel like DJI, they have been doing this for about almost 10 years now. They've been using their thumbnail data sync technology ever since the introduction of the DJI app years ago. So that's nothing new. Yeah. And the world's crazy right now. We're in a world right now where it seems that there are heightened border security. There are talks of things like nuclear war, which, I feel like a lot of that type of talk and rhetoric from world leaders, it seems to be kind of a flexing of muscles, a show of arms, or, a kind of a show of how powerful we are. And I don't really think they need to do that. They don't really need to flex. But then again, I'm not a world leader. I'm just a drone guy. So, we have that, and it's crazy. So everybody's flexing their muscles right now. Things are tightening down like we've never seen before. And I think when that happens, there's a lot of knee-jerk reaction that goes into it goes into these types of laws being produced. So, last week we talked about Elise Stefanik, the Republican congresswoman from New York. What's up, Fly High? Welcome to the live stream. So, yeah, we were dealing with 2864 last week, and it got lumped into the newest defense bill coming up, the NDAA, which some of you guys may have seen, and we could talk more about that in this stream as well. But quite honestly, if you're gonna ban Chinese drones, then here's the thing. If we're gonna ban Chinese drones, we surplus of smart technology items, which would be 95% of Best Buy's inventory on the floor right now. I mean, even light bulbs are connected to Wi-Fi these days, connected to your phone with some type of app. And whenever there's an app that works with anything, there could be a backdoor. We've known this how long now? We've known this since the inception of computers. Um, the the possibility of espionage from any country started when we were able to crawl across a border. It's nothing. It's nothing new. What are my feelings on DJI as an espionage tool? I don't really think it's any different than sending I think it's actually much less than allowing a balloon to fly over our borders. So there's the balloon thing. Um, when we stop tar and feathering. So it just seems like this is kind of an overreach, in my opinion. I've been flying DJI drones since the beginning of the DJI craze, when they were flame wheel, and we were building them up with nays, flight controllers. And there were some guys recently I saw say, "Man, that this is exactly why I kept my nays flight controllers, or my NASA flight controllers." NASA was one of the original. There was V1, V2. I think there was a V3. Uh, but those ones didn't call home. They didn't have the function to call home. So way back when, I used those types of flight controllers in some um, infrastructural type builds for Army Corps of Engineers and things like that. And then once some of that technology started to call home was when the government decided, we're not going to use those on the federal level. We're not going um, to use them in critical situations. And honestly, some of those drones were still used in those critical situations, and you know they weren't. Um, there wasn't a security risk because of that, and I'm pretty sure that those missions got done. Um, can you replace the controller? You can replace. There are workarounds for replacing the app software. There are some alternatives out there to running DJI's um, Fly app. There for a long time, there's been app alternatives, so you have the option to be able to download Litchi. There's one of the apps is called Litchi. Um, so something like this brings out a lot of conspiracy theorists and things like that. And I'm not paranoid about DJI's software. I'm just not really a big conspiracy theory guy. I don't think there's a giant conspiracy wrapped up around the use of DJI drones, and still a lot of public service and first responder folks that I know use DJI drones and are probably out there using them right now in public safety situations. And someone said another word for public safety is surveillance, and that's that's possibly true. Um, but they're using them, and yeah. So now, and I'm gonna probably have to go back and redo the wording and the thumbnail on this stream, because YouTube was kind of screwing me over when I was trying to get this scheduled for you guys earlier. I spent some really quality time with my software this morning and took my time setting it all up, and that's why I got super frustrated. I'm like, fucking shit. So I just clicked a button inside my software and said start streaming, and so I had to fix that thumbnail. But I'm here to bring you the information regardless. So I think a big question that some people have right now that I want to address is, will I be able to use like my DJI Air unit? And this is a decased Air unit. This is the original HD FPV digital FPV system from DJI. It has some upgraded AX2 antennas on here from Lumineer. I like this original unit. It was a bit large, but it could record 1080p on here. It just had a very large case around it for footprint on the drone, but you know, we made these work and they were great. And this original camera is one of my favorites. It's not anywhere as near as good as the brand new version that came out on the Avata, or even the DJI 3, the O3. And this one will still work. So this one's still going to work. The Caddx Vista is still going to work. Now, will you be able to update those? Possibly not. We will have to see if their software servers get shut down for DJI Assistant. The one I'm speaking of is the FPV series, the DJI Assistant 2. There's two versions of it, the Assistant DJI FPV series, and then there's the Consumer Drone series for updating your goggles. And who knows, at some point you might get one last update and then the servers go down from the United States. So here's the thing about updates and firmware and a lot of our drone equipment. I've been using TBS Crossfire for feels like almost a decade now. You know, just recently I realized one of my original modules, I hadn't updated it since I got it. And all of the receivers that I was using, the module automatically updates the RX when you link them up. So it would give it that version of firmware that it had on itself to the RX. Even if it was a newer RX, it would kind of downgrade it to match up my module, which is pretty cool. So I hadn't updated that module since I bought it, probably in 2015 or 2014, and it just works. And that's the thing. We have a lot of things that are going dark on us right now. So the things that you have right now will likely work. You know, even if all of these servers are turned off, it still should work. One of the things about the DJI Avata that may be an issue, when you turn it on, it wants to connect to your remote ID, and if that doesn't connect, it won't let you take off. So that may be a caveat of something like this system not working coming up in the future. If the FCC licensing gets struck down for this particular device, the remote ID may not work for that device if it's smart enough to know that this device is on the ban list for the FCC connected to your phone. So once you connect things to your phone, that may be where you get grounded. Now, something like the Caddx Vista, it's not going to get grounded. And that's why analog FPV is so great, because you pretty much just turn on your VTX, you plug in your battery, I mean, and it just works, and you go. You don't have to do any firmware updates. There's no NFZs on it, no fly zones and things like that. So that is kind of nice. So parts and components wise, for people that are building out there, you're going to be able to still build, and we're going to talk about some US alternatives for flight controllers, ESCs, some alternatives to BL Heli firmware on the ESCs too, because now the BL Heli server has shut down and you can't update your BL Heli 32 ESCs anymore. There is AM32. There's also, I believe there's ESC 32 configurator. It's an online web updater, which is pretty cool. I haven't tried yet to go through the process of updating to AM32 on my ESCs. I know that Oscar Lang, if you guys Google him, he has a tutorial recently of how to update AM32 onto your ESCs. But my point that I was making earlier about TBS Crossfire module is that I have these drones on the wall behind me right here. They have BL Heli on them. All three of these back here on the wall have BL Heli. I could take them off the wall right now and go fly them. They don't have to be updated. I don't have to make changes on them. But the nice thing is that what you should do right now is go ahead and download the BL Heli 32 configurator. If you have drones that have BL Heli on them, it would be good of you to go ahead and download that software. I'm sure there's going to be probably mirror links to it around the internet, and you'll be able to grab that from somewhere else. But go ahead while it's still up, if it's still up, download it now and put it on your computer. And that way you can make changes. You won't be able to downgrade or upgrade the firmware. But if you need to make timing changes or something else in there, motor direction changes, things like that, you can do that in the software still. So that's all still available, just not future updates. And you know, we don't really have any information on BL Helium, why they went private. They closed it on their doors, but with the way of the world right now, it wouldn't surprise me if they decided to you know, maybe work on some of their own contracts or things that would be on, I believe they're based out of Norway, so be on NATO's, probably on NATO's side of things. So yeah, Fly High FPV said in the chat that you shouldn't put AM32 on your ESC unless ITXS made for it. It seems a ton of bricked ESCs. So that's the thing too. If you're playing around with AM32, you know, it's likely that you can brick your ESC or your 4-in-1 ESC and have it just not work anymore, and then not be able to reflash it again. So you probably just want to leave things alone. Don't do anything. You don't have to do anything right now. And the same goes with your DJI firmware. If you have a DJI drone right now and it's asking you to update things, if you can get around it and stop it from doing that, don't update anything right now. The data sync firmware update should have came out. Somebody can comment in the chat if you know that came out, or if anybody's updated to that non-data sync firmware yet. But yeah, they didn't want to let us do this stream earlier, and so I've been noticing something too. Some of the drone channels and some of the FPV channels, like, you know, we're not getting the views like we used to. Is it that it's not as trendy anymore, or is it that these types of channels are being suppressed the same way that firearm channels are being suppressed? Because there's a lot of YouTube algorithm stuff out there that suppresses the firearm channels. So they get pushed down in the ranks. So the best way to work around that is just the videos that you like about drones, or even if it's firearms, like that video, and that will kind of help push that video up the chain for other people to see it. Yeah, you know, BL Heli may have closed down because of, you know, threats from the government possibly, but yeah, that's hard to say if that's true or not. I mean, they could be pretty much telling us anything. Yeah, they may be they may be being suppressed. So, you know, it would be nice in the future if we could still get components you know, things from Foxeer, GepRC, Beta FPV, and these other companies. I don't see like something like this as a national security threat. Um, this is not uh, connected in real time, downloading live data back to uh, China. It's connected to Betaflight. You run the firmware, you put your settings on there, and then you're off to go fly. It does have black box data, but that's for your own use. And you know, who knows if there's not a backdoor in Betaflight, but I doubt it because it's open source, and most of those guys crawl through that code. There's tens of thousands of lines of code in Betaflight, but you could almost be certain that the Betaflight is not nefarious software. But there is, you know, again, like anything that has some type of Wi-Fi connectability, like if a flashlight had a Wi-Fi connectability, or even Bluetooth, you know, is that a threat to national security? Like, um, it's like debatable. But I'm gonna turn you guys on to some alternatives. We're gonna be talking about some alternatives here coming up, and you know, these guys may be on the ban list, uh, but one of the drones that I would use right now if I was going to go on a trip somewhere and I didn't want to take, oh, thanks for the thumbs up. Um, if I didn't want to take a DJI Mini 4, what I would really love to, um, but if I'm not going to get that drone this year, then the alternative to that, and I've showed this video. I did a review on this one a while back. It's the Potensic Atom. This was a great drone. It has really good video on here. Dare I say it's on par with my Mini 3, but it would be cool to do some like side-by-side comparisons. I'm sure there's some comparisons to that. But this is one of my DJI alternative recommendations for now. It is Chinese made, but um, that one did extremely well. And if you're one of those people that are just like, you know, forget DJI, I don't want anything to do with DJI, I'm gonna fly something else, even if it's a Hollystone. I've seen people say they're gonna fly their Hollystone. So uh, I don't I don't know. I've reviewed some Hollystones. They're all, you know, pretty much like a toy drone. Uh, but the Atom and the Atom SE are definitely one to take on a small trip. I would prefer to take this one, honestly. Even with all of the rhetoric, I have to say rhetoric going around about DJI right now, I think that it's like I'm at a point where I would like to see some type of, I mean, how do you prove that? Um, there's some people talking about this ban, saying that they have no actual proof, right? There's no actual proof that DJI is doing this, and you know, since since this all came about in the past week, we've been really waiting for DJI to make some type of response. It's kind of hilarious. Like I'm looking through my YouTube feed, and every once in a while, I'll see a community post from straight from DJI's channel, and it's about something else, but never about the issue, never about the elephant in the room. The elephant is right there in front of us, and they're not saying anything on their own YouTube channel. It's like I think they're just maybe waiting to see if this thing slides through the Senate, and it may take a couple months for this to go through the Senate because it's bigger. This bill is bigger than DJI. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there that the senators are going to have to go through, and the committees are looking at and analyzing and studying for this defense summary. So it's a lot of work for all of those guys to do and consider. And there's probably, like people said, I mean, for sure there's going to be some changes in that bill. It's a huge, huge contract. So let's take a look at United States Alternative. And let me go ahead and pull that company up for you. Right now, they're ridiculously expensive. And I hope that maybe Anzu will come out with maybe something like a DJI Mini 4 alternative, because right now Anzu has the Raptor, and the Raptor is very similar to the Mavic 3. It's green. Check that out. What do you guys think about that green color? And what's actually pretty cool about this one, and it has RTK on the top. And if you don't know what RTK is, that will get you somewhere, 50 to 100 times better GPS precision than just a standard GLONASS GPS. It's a lot nicer. So professional, commercial, industrial applications use RTK, as well as first responders. But this drone costs, are you ready for this? It costs around $6,000. Now, don't everybody shit their pants all at one time here. But see, that's one of the things about, USA alternative drones. Right now, there's not an American alternative out there in the same price point as something like the DJI Mini 3 or the Mini 4. Unless you go on Amazon and you pick up an Atom SE. But that's not a USA made product. Now, the neat thing about Anzu is that when you power this drone up, it doesn't actually have no fly zones on it. So you can pick this one up and pretty much fly it anywhere. I believe that if you purchase this drone, though, you have to have some kind of background check. So that may be one of the reasons why you don't have the no-fly zones on it. Also, because you have identification with it, you have your remote ID. It's like your license plate. They know who you are. They know where you're flying. They know how high you're flying. Now, in critical areas, one of the reasons that the Raptor has that on it is because it's being used by first responders. So that certain times in critical situations, they need to be able to fly quickly and not have to wait around for that authorization. So some of these may be pre-approved. But that's Anzu Robotics, and there's other alternatives out there that we can talk about, and there's FPV components inside the United States. Some of them were being made in Portland years and years ago. Some flight controllers, and I know some people here that do make a flight controller, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to have maybe we'll have a sit down with him and talk about possibly their future plans with all of this news coming down the pipe, and see what they say about where they would like to go coming up, because I think business for them is about to really start getting very good. And their flight controllers are about $100 a piece. So it's really not, I wouldn't say it's a lot more expensive than the Chinese alternatives. There are a lot of Chinese flight controllers out there that are in the $80 to $100 range. A lot of the times, though, for that price, you also get 4-in-1 ESCs. And we'll also talk about some, there are ESCs out there if you're wanting to go ahead and get ahead of the curve from BO Heli 32 and you want to start flying AM 32. There are some ESCs out there. SkyStars makes AM 32 ESCs that are already flashed. Hey Johnny, welcome to the live stream, bro. YouTube was really trying to fight me and not let me do this stream. I'm gonna have to go back and redo the thumbnail and all the links and everything and the keywords because if for some reason it wouldn't let me link my software to the YouTube for some reason. OBS was being a bitch. But yeah, there's here's the thing. The sky is not falling, okay? And something strange inside me happened the other day when I heard about the possibility of the DJI drone ban and then the Chinese drone ban. Something strange inside of me happened. You know what happened? I got this feeling like I mean, first of all, I got feeling like, oh shit, we're going to be we're going backwards in time like 10 years to the beginning of the FPV revolution. Like I felt like for a moment I'm like, holy shit, is this 2015? Am I stuck back into the old shitty analog days of those 340p cameras with terrible resolution? And I got kind of excited. I got strangely excited. Like, and I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday about analog FPV. And I don't have a ton of analog FPV cameras and VTXs laying around. And I have to tell you, I could pick up one of my FPV planes right now and I could go out for the day and post up somewhere, fly in a field, and I would have just as much fun with that FPV plane with an analog camera setup on there as I would with this. So if a total ban comes down the pipe, I think we're going to be okay. It's going to take us a while because here's the thing. We're not ready for a total ban. If it happened next week, we're not ready for a total ban. We're not ready for it. So, now some of these representatives, they might not care, right? They might not care if we, the consumers, are ready for it, but we're not ready for that yet. Just like we're not ready to just go dark on BL Heli 32. Man, so much crazy shit has happened in the last like couple weeks. But we are going to survive this and the hobby will go on. It will go on. We're still going to do it. Even if we have to, collectively get together and make one open source community flight controller. I think there's enough love and interest in the FPV hobby in the United States for us to be able to figure out how to fund that. We do have Kickstarter. Someone a couple days ago was like, man, Justin, you should become the next DJI in the United States. Start a Kickstarter. People will back that. I don't know if I want that responsibility. I would also need probably $100 million. If anybody has $100 million laying around, let me know. We can create a kick-ass company. But that's not likely. What is likely, though, is the open source community will survive. we will survive this. The show will fucking go on. No matter what, the show will go on. Even if I have to fly this one, this plane right here, things like this. If I have to fly a foamy airplane and gorilla tape my GoPro to the front to make my aerial videos, I'm gonna do that. I've been doing that since 2006. I was using nitro powered airplanes. I had a Sony Cybershot, and this is my first memory of an aerial video. Yeah, okay. I would take Gorilla Tape, put it around the top of my Sony Cybershot, duct tape the shit out of it down to a 2-stroke Avistar. It was called an Avistar. Tape it down to the top of this nitro airplane. And back then, I was flying on federal property. That's where I learned how to fly RC airplanes, was federal property. We used to fly in a campground in North Carolina, and the park rangers would sit in the wintertime and watch me sitting in their truck because they were bored. And it was 35 degrees outside and the wind's blowing 25 miles an hour. You know, I'm in my early 20s trying to make all this work, and then crapping in a 15, 20 mile an hour wind sideways to try to slam this plane down in one piece. And that's where the adventure starts. If you have it in your heart that you want to kind of go out and you get this idea and you want to see if you can make something fly. It's like recently, the video that came out today, I was flying line of sight, and I recently gave an airplane to Diego. You guys might have seen that. Now, Diego has a little more functionality out of his thumbs. He's missing 4 digits on one hand. He's a friend of mine that we talked about, a very close friend of mine that was involved in a serious attack, and we won't really talk about any more than that unless he himself wants to. But so he's been in recovery, and I gave him this RC airplane. We flew it on the channel, and then since then he's taken it home. And give you an update, he's been flying the crap out of it. And I talked to him yesterday, and he's been flying it and having fun with it. And I was telling him they just look so cool in the air, and like, the beauty of flying RC is that little tiny thing taking off, going up in the air, watching it fly around in the air, and then landing it back on the ground in one piece. And I used to fly 1-2 batteries or 1 tank of nitro gas, and sometimes I would fly a 15-minute tank of gas and then just go home. I'd put my plane in the back of my car and go home with a plane that still works. And that's the magic of RC, getting it in the air and getting it back on the ground. And Diego was saying his favorite thing to do was just take off and land. He would take off, fly around the field, come back around, kind of do a touch and go, and then take back off. And the plane that I gave to him was the eSky Mini ES2. It has a super wide tricycle landing or tail dragger landing gear. It has a really wide landing gear, which makes it really nice for touch and goes. And tricycle landing gear is a little tougher for landing, in my opinion. Some people say the tail dragger is because the back tail wheel is kind of squirrely and you can kind of spin around. But this one was made for beginners. It's not super powerful. It's very similar to that one that I flew from Voluntex yesterday, except a little bigger. But I was impressed with that little Voluntex. That's under 250 grams. And so, things like that, you can still find so much joy in. So we're gonna be okay because my joy doesn't come from DJI. Can I get a thumbs up for that? My joy doesn't come from DJI. My joy comes from RC. Every time I get the sticks and I start playing with something, I become that little boy. My first RC anything when I was a kid was, you remember those little remote control cars that were on a fucking wire? Mine was like a little, I think it was like a Corvette. It was like a red Corvette, and it had this I think it was a wheel steerable one with the trigger, and it had a wire on it. And I used to follow that thing around the house. I used to follow it up and down the sidewalk, and that thing would only do like, I swear to God, it only did like 3 miles an hour. It was so slow. I'm walking behind it, and I would put it in the sand, and I would try to make it do a burnout, and I would get down close to it in full throttle just to see if I could get some sand to kick out from the back of it and do a burnout. And I was so excited Christmas morning when I got that car. And ever since then, I've been hooked on RC. I know a lot of you guys have stories like that, and um, I would love to be able to share everyone's RC stories on my channel. Like this channel, if I could have an alternative channel and just share other people's stories, stories of RC, I would, because the stories are so great. I mean, we talk about FPV saving lives. I think anytime someone finds an interest in something that's constructive, that gives you a little something to do in your spare time, or late at night when the kids are asleep and your wife's asleep, maybe you sneak downstairs to your shop and start tinkering with this stuff. For me, I was a tinkerer since I was tall enough to dig through my granddaddy's drawer and find old pocket knives, things like that. You guys ever dig through your grandfather's drawer? Some cool shit in that drawer, right? Remember the junk drawer? The junk drawer was my favorite place. And now I have my own junk drawer, and I was just thinking about that yesterday. I was opening it up and I was looking for GoPro batteries. And my kids are 8 now, and I thought, I think my kids are going to start digging through my drawers. So I might want to go through those drawers and make sure that I don't have anything super dangerous in those drawers. um, I know one of them has a big hunting knife in it. I might want to take that out, but hell, we were playing with bayonets when we were kids. I mean, I found my granddad's World War II bayonet he had in his closet. We went out in the woods with it, and we were sharpening sticks. We're still alive. Yeah, man, we're all tinkerers. We're all just curious boys. I'm the same curious boy right now I was when I was younger. Very curious about the world, how things work. I used to look through encyclopedias, and I might be aging myself here talking about an encyclopedia, but my grandfather had so many encyclopedias that I think they were Botanica ones, and he had them in a glass case. It was so cool. This was the internet back in the day. For you Gen Z people who may be watching, I would open up that glass case and I would pull out a Encyclopedia Britannica, and I would pull out the R. They were A through Z, so you could go through them A through Z. And if you were doing a book report or something, that's how you figure out. If you had a state book report, you go to W for Wyoming or whatever. I'd pull out R, and I would pull out A, and A was aviation, and R was rocketry. And that's something we really haven't got into in the channel, and this might be a terrible time to get into remote control rocketry. But there are people out there making these really cool electric rockets now. But aside from that, I used to study this rocketry and the staging and everything, and I was so interested in that aviation. Really cool stuff. But I've always been curious of how things fly, and balsa airplanes and things like that. Now a single balsa airplane is $10. What the hell? I used to be able to get 2 for $1, I think it was. Was it 2 for $1? Back in like 1985. I'd go out in the yard, man. I would throw these things for hours. If it was too windy, they'd end up sailing out over the over the horizon, out into the marsh, over the trees. So we're gonna be okay. You know, I think they're taking kind of a personified aim at DJI, honestly. Um, because a lot of people have they have the question, what about computers? What about phones? What about Samsung? This is a Samsung Galaxy. There could be many backdoors, and there are. It's pretty easy to turn on this camera and see what's going on. If you have one of these and you carry it around with you, it has real-time GPS. It has Google for number one. Number two, it probably has Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram. A lot of these apps, any type of app on a phone, can track you in real time. And that data can be grabbed from any foreign adversary in the world. Any country out there, even the most third world countries out there around the world can hack you. But we still allow these to be sold. You go down to Walmart right now and you can get one of these. And these have not been deemed a national security threat. But in my opinion, they're more of a security threat than a DJI drone. So maybe all of our phones should be made here in the States. I mean, the iPhone. Data privacy is subjective. It really is subjective. Yeah, Hawaii. Another company that got banned long before DJI, and you guys might not even be aware of this, but they are on the ban list right now. They are the Apple computer of China. You want to see who that is? I'll show you. Also one of the best performing DJI alternatives out there that has a huge community around it. I don't even know how to say the company name, but I have one of their controllers here. This was an upgraded controller, very similar to DJI's RC controller with the screen for the Mini 3 and the 4. I'll just show you the box. This is Fimi. Xiaomi makes the Fimi, and Xiaomi, or Xiaomi, I believe as it's pronounced, is on the federal ban list. They're on the federal ban list for any government use. And they made a great drone, the X8. The X8 drone, that's a cool drone. That's a nice drone. And that TX10 right there, that's a freaking sweet controller. And I haven't gotten rid of it yet because it's great. It's much better than putting my phone, snapping my phone into the older case. And that's why I love the RC controller from DJI, where I didn't have to use my phone or use the app on the phone. It just worked without a phone because the controller had GPS. So if you guys have any questions, be sure to put them in the chat. If you have a specific question, maybe I can go back and look through some of the chat. James Barrica said the Cadet Junior. I know what you're talking about. That's a good one. I love all the cadets. Cadet was an airplane. So Dwayne said, hope that here in Canada that our Prime Minister Justin Trudeau doesn't try to follow suit. Trudeau? I think it's Trudeau. I'm going to bet you a drone of somewhere in the shop that the same thing will happen in Canada. I'm just predicting. Australia is already doing it. Canada. I mean, and the UK's over there laughing at us like, oh, ha ha ha. Don't laugh too quickly, UK, because you know, the UK and the United States do a lot of things together. Don't be surprised if the EU also follows the trend. So DJI's market may be shrinking by a whole lot in the next couple years. So here's, especially if world tensions escalate the way they are. So here's the thing. You know, DJI early, once they implemented that call home feature, from that moment on was when they kind of shot themselves in the foot. You know, the US government for a long time has been kind of watching DJI with that call home feature, and certain folks in Washington, many people in the security industry decided that, I mean, it's obvious that's not secure. That's not secure for, if we're going to be realistic, it's not secure. But that was a bad decision to make, to put that call home feature in there, the data sync thing. So if they had addressed that maybe like 7-8 years ago when that first came up, and I remember when it first came up, the public wasn't even really aware of it. I was, because I was a DJI dealer, and from the very first couple days I saw that come out, I was like, security problem. I mean, but back then too, people were all like, I have nothing to hide. I hate that. I hate that saying. Like when I'm preaching about data, people are like, oh, Justin, I have nothing to hide. Oh, really? Really? So someone said, don't blame the pilots. Um, you know, cars too. Tesla. If you drive a Tesla, it tracks your eyes, and this is no shit. It tracks your eyes, and it can tell if you're tired. You know, it will also in the future be able to, you know, if you sit in a car seat, it'll be able to tell your fitness level, whether you're fit to drive. So you get in the car, you're not fit to drive the car, so the car won't start. You think I'm shitting you? Insurance companies, you know, insurance companies are already changing people's insurance costs by their driving habits. The amount of information that gets downloaded to insurance companies for the way you drive, the way you accelerate, the way you brake, if you do a lot of quick braking, quick acceleration, things like that. Your social credit score, banks, I mean, you name it, all that data is part of your profile. So analog FPV seems more attractive to me all the time. Am I right? We're not in a terrible place. Analog FPV is still fun. If I had to go completely back to analog FPV right now, I mean, my favorite thing is airplanes. I'd probably just turn around and walk back to airplanes and start flying my airplanes with a GoPro on there and enjoying myself like I have. And James, the FBI could not find you. You have to leave. You have to leave home with nothing. And even still, then you got the satellite up there. So you leave the front door nowadays. 1980s, it would have been harder, yeah. If you're a real POI, person of interest. Yeah, I haven't even, I don't even know where my fat sharks are. I think I gave them away. I've been using SkyZone now for about 7-8 years. Ever since the SkyZone 030s came out, I've not touched Fat Shark. And I don't have huge beefs with Fat Shark Immersion RC. Because that company was one of the first cameras I ever used, and I made a comment like a long time ago on the YouTube channel that Immersion RC's cameras sucked, and they did. They were terrible. They had terrible low light level change. If you flew beyond the top of a cliff or a horizon, like down below some trees, everything went black until you got way low to the ground. And by that time, you had probably hit a tree on the way down or a branch or something because you were completely blind. But above the tree line, you could see. It was like, I can see up here, but down here, I'm blind. And that was sometimes if you had the sun off in this direction and the shadow below, completely blind. I think Immersion might have got mad at me for saying their cameras were shit. But they were shit. I also crashed one of their, the Vortex 150, somewhere out in the Pacific Ocean because of that camera. But that was the early days of 25 milliwatt. They had theirs set to 25 milliwatt. I flew like 100 feet, lost video. And when I turned around and looked, to see where I was, the cliff was black. No definition, no low light balance. But we'll be okay with analog. I mean, even if we were to have to go back to the dark days, we would still have fun. So there are going to be some alternatives for American FPV components, and there are folks making lists of those as we speak right now. We will have one available for you guys as well. And, hold on to your FPV goggles, hold on to your DJI stuff. If this bill does pass, and it's likely it will, it may take 3 to 5 years for this to go into effect. So it's kind of like the remote ID process. They introduce something, and then it has uh, a period of compliance. Okay, so we're going to get into this period of compliance if there's a Chinese drone ban. I don't think it's going to be like cold turkey overnight. Bam. No more Chinese drones. Now, in that time period is when you guys can start making adjustments to what you want to do. I mean, we could be super preemptive and just, try to compile these FPV component, United States component lists for you as quickly as possible. Uh, and I hope those companies are ready to get ready for the supply and demand, because I think the demand for domestic flight controllers is going to go through the roof. So this is a warning out to all the manufacturers stateside. Get ready. Um, get ready for it. Sam Collins asked if you say you're mate to the party. I think you mean you're late to the party. Has the DJI ban gone through in totality? No, it has not. Right now, it has passed the House of Representatives, and now it's going on to the Senate. It is in the Senate, but right now it's being processed. And that may take a week. It may take a couple months. It may take 2 or 3 months. We may be in like Chinese drone limbo. Purgatory for the next couple months. We don't know. But we will survive. Am I right, guys? Give a thumbs up if we are going to survive as a hobby. We'll be fine. We will be absolutely fine. I am 100% sure of that. Because as long as I wake up every morning, I will wake up, I will have my coffee, and I will try to inspire other people to fly. Because that's what made me happy in my life. Learn how to fly stuff. And I honestly don't care if it's one of those things. If it has a wing on it and it leaves the ground, I'll be a happy guy. Well, welcome to the stream, Sam. Yeah, and if you were to ask me, do I think that this is going to go through? Yeah, it's going to go through. It's going to go through. Now, if you're late to the show, let me show you Anzu Robotics. We talked about this company before already on the stream, and this company is so stateside they put their phone number on the screen right there. That looks like a direct line. So that's cool. You can call and talk to them. Maybe since a lot of this is going down, they will come out with some type of smaller version. Say a Raptor Mini would be amazing. I'm just going to put that out there for Anzu. There's a huge public interest in the United States that would love to have a Raptor Mini. That would be maybe, I mean, God, The Raptor costs, I think it's around $6,000. They also have an AI version, which is pretty freaking cool. And these drones are primarily used by first responders. Um, and I believe I saw something recently that said that this drone doesn't have no-fly zones on it. So once you get it, you register it, you put your remote ID on it, it will fly just about anywhere. But that may be for first responders, not you. The Raptor T, I'm sure that's the rule. But it is essentially a DJI drone. So there are loopholes that are going to be in place for flying something that is technically a DJI with a different name on it, something like the Raptor T. They have licensing through DJI, but it's been vetted to not call home. Now, one other little bit of news, if you're watching the stream, this is something interesting. Skydio, they hired a national security expert team during this DJI drone ban process. Very interesting that they preemptively hired a national security team to make sure that they're in compliance with whatever's coming down the pipe, because the last thing you want to do in the United States is put millions and millions of dollars into a drone product and then have it banned by Congress because you had some little type of bug in there that was exploited and it became a national security threat. And a lot of people are kind of upset with Skydio right now because some people were saying that one of the owner was involved in some security stuff, and then the Skydio drones are pretty much used by first responders mostly right now, and I don't know that they're really even making any type of drones that are for consumers, like consumer style drones anymore. They started out like that. I wasn't a big fan of Skydio because they wanted everything to work off the phone, and I hated that idea. I thought that was pretty stupid because they wanted this follow me thing to work and it to do things from the phone. I have to have a controller. I think I'm old school. But the other loophole that we want to talk about is Specta. I was talking about Specta last week and all this stuff came up, and Specta and the Specta Mini are possibly DJI drones. And this might be something for you guys coming up. You can get a Specta drone on Amazon. So Anzu is going to be a lot of money. But Specta may be more in the Specta Mini by the parent company called Cogito. How the hell do you say that? Cogito? I mean, people are saying they're DJI clones. But this may be the stateside loophole that some people are looking for. And if I couldn't fly a DJI drone, I'd fly a Specta. Why not? If it has all the same software, essentially the same, and the camera looks decent. I mean, look, we're at a point right now where the 4K cameras are so good that it's at a certain point it's not going to matter. I mean, and here's a comparison right here. A log of the spectrum for the RCN2 and the Specta Mini RC, and look how close that is. So the question is that does it matter? Does it matter if you have a Spectre or a DJI? And yeah, they're not super expensive. So this is good news. All of this, even though Anzu is a little expensive, we are going to try to show you one of the Raptors coming up on the channel. We do have some connection with Anzu, um, and I will definitely put a bug in their ear about creating something the size of uh, like the Mini 4 and the 3. And hopefully Anzu will do that. They'll create something smaller and more affordable. Because there is a gigantic market in the United States for a consumer drone. So if anybody has a spare $100 million laying around, let me know, and we'll have lunch. Because I already have a name for a company. I can't tell you yet. It's a secret. Yeah, Skydio bailed out of the consumer market. That's kind of it's kind of sad that they didn't make something that like just follow along with the FPV community. If you want to make a cool drone, follow the coolest people out there doing the coolest things. That's what DJI has been doing. DJI is a giant conglomerate. They're mostly concerned with, they're not super concerned with consumer stuff anymore. Because if you've noticed, I've noticed since they stopped making the Phantoms, when they switched over to the Mavics, they don't make 3 versions of one drone anymore. They used to make 3 or 4 different style Phantoms. They had like a basic, an SE, like a whole bunch of different Phantom models. Uh, and then they started consolidating what they were doing. So you don't need a bunch of different versions. You just need a good drone, one good drone release, like a mini, maybe a larger one, a folding version, like the size of a Mavic 3. And if you want to do industrial or private, that could be a whole different leg of the company. But most of these private sector companies are not doing consumer stuff. Unfortunately, their stuff is just too expensive for the regular guy. Farming and agricultural drones, dudes, we're talking about subsidies to be able to buy one of those. The DJI dock. I don't know a single person that owns one of those. Actually, I know one person that owns one of those. But farming, if DJI gets banned in the United States, the farming market, like alone, is going to be huge. But again, that's like if you're a person that has millions of dollars invested somewhere in the aviation category of industrial business, then that would be really lucrative in the next like 10 years, 5-10 years. James Barrica said he crashed his Mini 2 with no care refresh. They gave you a brand new one, no charge. That's impressive from DJI, because when I was a dealer and I had my store, I was kind of on the front lines of trying to get my customers a new drone from them. Or when Horizon Hobby used to make the 350QX, I think it was called. it was like dealing with an insurance company. No matter what I tried to say or do for a customer, a lot of times they would try to figure out a way not to have to send a new drone, a brand new in a box drone. But a lot of the times I would end up getting them to at least either give a discount on a new one to the customer since they bought it from us, or a total replacement. So getting a total replacement is actually really good of DJI to do that. What's up, Kevlar? Welcome to the stream. We're just talking a little bit about everything today. There's a lot to talk about and a lot to discuss. And, you know, this conversation's not going to end here. That's why it's so good that if you're brand new to the channel and you subscribe this week, or we had a bunch of new subscribers because of the DJI ban videos and those news items that came up. If you're subscribing now because of those videos, great time to be on the channel, because we're going to give you kind of a roadmap of where to go in the next couple years. If things change, we will change with it. And that's the positive light about all of this, right? So I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this. We don't need DJI. We don't need DJI. We don't need them. Fuck them. It doesn't matter that I said that, because they banned me years ago for speaking the truth. So Marcus asked, where's the money going with this ban? Well, the money is going probably mostly to the private sector at this point. And I said when I first started the streams that we're not ready yet. Like the public is not ready to just drop their DJI drone on the ground and stop flying it. The industry is not ready yet. You have retailers around the country that have stockpiles of these drones, and if overnight they couldn't sell them, you know, they may be forced not to sell them, and they will figure out a way to work around that. But um, you think DJI is going to take a restocking fee on all those and have all those drones returned to their California warehouse and then ship them back to China? That may be difficult, but it may be doable. I mean, if you twist somebody's arm, you know, eventually they're going to have to walk with you. But I hate that kind of legislation. And, you know, I know some of you guys don't want to hear this, but, you know, it may be like some of that is the MAGA type of rhetoric that Stefanik is kind of bringing to the bill. But we'll see what happens. It's an election year. So if you thought things were crazy now, wait till September. Wait till September. Who are you guys going to vote for? I don't even want to get into that. That's another thing. It's like, I joked on Facebook the other day, I'm running for president. Because why not? Could it be any worse than the alternatives? I won't take your drones away. So if I was I don't even know that I'm smart enough to talk about this, but if I was the president and I thought DJI was a threat to national security under the espionage issue, you know, they said in that bill that the Department of Defense was going to be responsible for disassembling. You can't disassemble all the Chinese drones out there and all the flight controllers and everything out there. It's not possible. Market's too big. And maybe they're talking about newer DJI drones coming into the country. They would be responsible for going through that. I would want, if I was president, I would want to know that the hardware is solid. There's no secret little side chips in there that are nefarious, and that the software was 100,000,000% safe for domestic operation, so that it protects citizens that are using them and people that are around those drones in that vicinity. So, you know, do I think this is a threat? I don't think so. But again, like, this is probably more of a threat than this. Which is the bigger threat? This or this? People take this everywhere with them. You don't take this everywhere with you. You know, they were making up some new laws to increase the fines and jail time for flying one of these around a federal or any type of prisons. I'm game for that. I'm down for that. I think they should do that. That's great. Give them 10 years. They shouldn't be freaking shooting aerial video of a newly constructed prison that's not on Google Maps yet. You could see a prison from the air with Google Maps, but if there's a new wing of it and you're over there trying to film it with the drone to give that to criminals, then sure. If you're doing something bad with your drone, and it's obviously you're breaking some type of law, then, well, you know, that's. So we're gonna be okay. We're just gonna keep chugging along, and we're still gonna enjoy this hobby. Like, and I had this wild, weird excitement come over me the other day. Like, it was almost like as if, like, someone had taken away, like, you know, the idea of the DJI drone ban. It was almost like with the O3s, like, I love those O3s. I love these units. And God, I would hate to, like, go back to flying analog. But it was almost if, like, someone had, like, come into my own hobby collection and removed 90% of my gear, and then, like, I was struck with the idea of having to start over again from scratch, and that put me at this, like, ground level of thought to where I was like, oh, what would I do? I would still chase fun, and in a way, starting from scratch might be a new adventure, because that's the whole reason that I'm into this. And I'm sure that's the whole reason that you're into it. The adventure. I've described this as, like, as a national, like, geographic expedition. It's expeditious what we do. We're you know, look at the title, look at the header of our YouTube channel. It's it says explore. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing to have fun. We're exploring. We're going to see things that we never seen before. That's what you're doing with your drone. Just don't do it over a prison. Don't do it near a police station. Don't be an idiot. Don't do it over a traffic stop. Don't be an asshole. Don't fuck with first responders. Don't be a jerk. Just have fun with it. Don't use it to be a dick. You know, and is Elise taking money from Skydio? Is she? I don't know. I don't have any proof or documentation of Skydio providing her with any money to make 2864, HR 2864. I don't know. Some people are saying that in the comments. The internet's crazy with all kinds of conspiracy theories. Um, but probably won't know until, you know, she's almost out of office, or, you know, she gets outed by some Democrat. She was taking money from so and so. You know, she aren't they all? You know, when Trump first got elected, I thought, you know, I'm not a fan of this guy, but at the same time, he was kind of punk rock and saying like, "I'm gonna drain the swamp," and for a second, I thought, "Oh, fresh start. I like a fresh start. He's gonna drain the swamp." He didn't drain the swamp. The swamp's still there, unfortunately. And as you guys all know, the swamp revolves around what? The almighty dollar. Am I right? Give some thumbs up for that. So, you know what I should do today? I should go fly something very simple today. No flight controllers, line of sight, maybe some FPV. I feel like I should. There is a video I'm supposed to make today for one of our FPV wings. So there's also a product that I have that I would like to show you guys. If you're interested, put some thumbs up in the channel if you would like to see this cool little EDC. This cool little EDC knife. I haven't really reviewed things like that on the channel before, but I feel like a lot of FPV guys have kind of like their daily, you know, EDC stuff that you might take with you for whether it's a pair of snips or just a box cutter or something like that. I use a lot of times box cutters to open up FPV stuff and drones. But I got this cool knife, and it's like $20, and I think it's one of the coolest ones I have. So, you know, you guys know I like cheap stuff. So, this was not cheap. This is bench made, but they're made in Oregon. And yeah, I talked about that yesterday. Somebody, Kevlar said something about walk snail is garbage, and so is HD0. I I don't think they're garbage, but they're not as all right. There might be some walk snail guys in the room right now. They're gonna say, "Fuck you." Um, Is it as good as DJI O3 and O4? No. However, if I couldn't fly my O3s or my O4 tomorrow, if I couldn't fly this, I'd walk straight over to Walk Snail and HD0 in a heartbeat. Um, Now, which one do I prefer? I've had a lot of problems with Walk Snail firmware updates. That's why you haven't seen a lot of uh, reviews on the channel. I talked to Walk Snail about this, making that process easier, because I had a lot of failed updates, which drives me crazy, and things aren't working. 2 hours later, I'm still sitting in the same spot I was. I'm wasting my time and yours, and I should just put it down and move on to something else. The DJI stuff, and I told Walk Snail's developers about this. When I pick up something DJI, it just works. The firmware update, it just works. I had a lot of problems with alternative HD systems. Um, it's maddening. And I know a lot of people out there, and when I have some issues with anything, if I have issues with it, I know a lot of people are going to have a lot of issues with it. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, and I'm not the dumbest guy in the world. But I know how to make stuff work, even stuff that's like really put together wrong, broken. I had a drone come to me the other day. I told Diego about this. I had a drone come to me the other day. I took it out of the box. I hooked it up to Betaflight, and it said, "This drone's firmware is too old to connect to Betaflight. Please reflash the hardware." And I was like, "What the hell?" So I went into the CLI and I typed version and hit return, and the firmware version on this quad that was sent to me is an ultra cheap one. It's made of old ass components, but it's cheap. And if I get another copy of it, I'll fly it for you guys and I'll show it to you for a cheap 5-inch. The firmware on that drone was from 2017. The firmware on that drone was from 2017. It was an Omnibus F4 SD flight controller. One of my favorites from that era. Why? Because it flew good, but also you could use those flight controllers on fixed wing. You could install iNav on the Omnibus flight controllers. That was cool. And this wasn't an F3, it was an F4. It was the V2 Omnibus F4 SD flight controller. But that baby was DOA. It was dead on arrival, and there wasn't a lot I could do to bring that thing back. And so I just had to send an email back out to the guys and tell them this thing it's literally dead, sitting on the bench. Like, the UARTs are not working. And why are the UARTs not working? Probably because they're from 2017. It was manufactured probably in 2016, which was how many fucking years ago? God. So that's kind of the chance you take on maybe some of the cheap stuff out there. The really old stuff. Maybe one of the UARTs or all of the UARTs aren't working. In this case, the UARTs would not respond at all. Serial RX, not working. What's up, Dax? Welcome to the stream. But I'll try to get a working version of that because I know there's a lot of people out there who just want kind of like, you don't have to buy like a $500 analog or HD drone to get started flying 5-inch. You don't need it. You could fly analog drone. if you're on a budget, if you're somebody who just doesn't have $2,000 or $1,000 to jump into FPV, you can do it on the cheap. You can. Nowadays, you can. Um, but buying one of those ultra dirt cheap 5-inch, it's kind of like buying an SKS like 20 years ago. Do you guys, any of you guys, ever fire an SKS? The SKS, you could find probably find one out in the woods somewhere right now, and it would probably still fire. Um, but some of the problems with some of they had stockpiles of these, and they had stockpiles of M1s 20 years ago. They had them, nobody wanted them. But the SKS, I think it was Russian made. Am I right? You could get them for super cheap, like $100 in the back of like the gun magazines. And then when you got it, for that price, it would either fire or it wouldn't fire. And the same thing with some of the AKs. Like, it would fire or it wouldn't fire, or it would blow up on you. But you got it for $100. So that's the chance you take. And that used to be the chance you took when you bought Turnigy batteries. Same thing. Sometimes you'd have a dead cell. It's not like you guys like spoiled these days with the tattoo batteries that just work. It's been a long time since I had a tattoo battery with a dead cell, like on arrival. Things are made pretty good these days. We're in a great place. Now, whether our supply chain is going to be cut off in the next couple years seems to be likely. So if you're interested in starting an FPV company, stateside, American made in the USA, now's a good time to consider that. Or fly what you got. Don't update anything. Don't update BL Heli. Don't update your DJI. Yeah. Nothing wrong with analog. And this is a huge reason why analog is not dead. I've said it before, I'm not like a huge, analog or die person. I'm not all DJI. I have to buy all the DJI drones that I get because I'm not their love child, or iJustine, or Casey Neistat. We're like a in the trenches drone channel, RC channel. It says drone camps, but we're really like an RC channel because we do everything. What's up, Ammo Cat? Bamboo Lab. Man, I hope they don't ban Bamboo Labs. They do have Wi-Fi on them, though. God. They do take real-time video. They can stream from inside the 3D printer. Espionage. I'm going to have to send my toaster back. My toaster's spying on me. The toilet, the refrigerator, the front doorbell. How about that? How about the front doorbell? How come nobody's worried about that? Literally eavesdropping on your front yard and every person that comes in and out your front door every single day. And Jeff Bezos is watching that one. You think about that for a second. A multinational company has your front door on lockdown. And whoever comes in your yard and in your driveway, And you've probably got more than one of those devices because now everybody has 2 or 3 cameras around their house. But the guy with a hoodie can still steal your package and get away with it. So what the hell is your camera for? What the hell is your camera for? It's to watch you. That's what it's for. Yep. There's all kinds of awesome stuff we could get into with this topic of this stream. But the key points that we've talked about in the stream so far are, number one, we're going to be okay. If you're late to this stream, we talked about the fun of RC and the fun of just getting something off the ground and flying it. And we also talked about loopholes, DJI loopholes specifically. We talked about several different drone companies that are making sort of DJI clones. If you really have to have a Mini 4 clone or whatever, a Mavic clone, they're going to be available. Now the bigger picture to look at here for our crowd, our community, FPV community, is alternatives for, flight controllers outside of companies. Who knows if we'll be able to get Foxeer and SkyStars and other Chinese flight controllers coming up. Hopefully we can still get those, because these connect to Betaflight. They don't connect to your phone. If the ones that have Bluetooth, like Speedy Bee, anything that connects to your phone could be a possible security risk. I mean, plugging something into your computer with a USB cable could be a security risk. But I mean, at that point, we're being, geez, we might as well ban all smart devices. For fuck's sakes. And the paranoia is growing deep. And I'm not paranoid. I'm just connect anything right here to my computer right now and go fly it. Does that make me dumb? Smart TVs. Dude, everything. Think about it. Your entire... My fucking light over there has Bluetooth. The light, I can change that from my phone. It's connected to my phone. The USB light. These smart light bulbs that are making this colored lighting in the background, those are changeable by an app. And they're very expensive. But yeah, the entirety of Best Buy would pretty much be shut down. If they're going to ban Chinese drones, then that's like the tip of the iceberg. Do you guys understand that? That is the fucking tip of an iceberg. And for some reason, there is a huge microscope on the drone community. Why not the refrigerator in your kitchen, watching you make and bake cookies and frozen pizza, and listening to your conversation and giving you personified advertising? Your home internet, I mean, and I'm not a tinfoil hat guy, but I'm not stupid. And I know you guys aren't stupid. So it's the tip of the iceberg with this. This is the tip of the iceberg. If you're going to ban Chinese-made drones, holy fuck, you got a lot of things to look at in the marketplace. 99% of Amazon products, Walmart. The entirety of Walmart is made in China. The Chinese economy is sustained by companies like Walmart and Amazon. They want a middle class like we have. To make that happen, they need global commerce. In the United States, one of the leading marketplaces. So, but this is where we go from here. This is the direction that we go. Right now, all you guys, I would say don't worry too much right now. I think it's going to have to be really defined as to what a drone is, or um, Chinese made drones. Like what makes it a drone? Is this a drone? This is not a drone. You know, is this a drone? That's not a drone. Speaking of drone, the dog is barking right now, and I think there's another one coming to my front door. Um, is this a drone? So I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that need to be considered. Like a blanket ban wouldn't make sense. They're just going to take aim at certain companies like Potensic. Unfortunately, they'll probably take aim at Hollystone, all the all the all the fucking popular Amazon brands. Yeah, the popular brands first. They'll be first because they're competition, right? Um, and some of this has to do with competition, right? Making the United States competitive in the marketplace for drone manufacturing. But we should have been doing this 10 years ago. Not banning Chinese drones. There should be an American DJI company. Someone approached me 8 years ago and said, "How much money do you need? I want to start the country's largest drone store." And at that time, when that guy came to me, I told him that would be a terrible idea. So I talked myself out of making the largest drone store in the country, uh, largest company that would be a drone retailer. That'd be a terrible idea. Also because of places like Sam's Club and Walmart outselling us. I told him at the time, I was like, I need $100 million to make that happen. And the turnover of components is so fast in the drone community that, this camera this week is not cool. 2 weeks from now, there's another camera that came out that's better. And that just kept happening over and over and over in 2017. And during the height of that, around 2017, this guy wanted to do this. But what I should have said when he asked me if I wanted to do that and where should we do it, and there was a conversation about this, I should have said, let's create the American version of DJI. Let's take $100 million and let's make an American equivalent of DJI. And, that's something that the United States should have done 8 years ago with consumer drones. That would have been awesome. We should have already been there. And I talked about how all of the scare tactics around registering things and Part 107 and all these other things that were making it more complicated to make money with your drone were slowing down our industry and also slowing down STEM programs. And that when you put constrictions on universities that are trying to teach this technology to our youth, to our up and coming people out there who are going to run our society, if you're putting a block on something, that is a risk to national security, in my opinion, stopping the universities and the colleges and the grade schools from drone education. And here we are, 10 years later. We don't have an American alternative to DJI. So here we are with a huge wide open market for something we should have been doing 10 years ago. And where do we go from here? So I'm going to leave it with that. There's a whole lot of opportunity for you guys out there. If you are somebody with a little bit of capital, um, or you just have an idea that you believe in, you should go for it. I think you should do it because there's about to be a huge market for it. And if there's no one standing there to take that money, wow, that's a whole bunch of cheddar that's going to be just sitting there going bad and spoiling. So consumer drone market's about to get really pretty wide open in the next couple of years. So on the RC side of things, we will survive. We will be fine. We are going to have fun on this channel because I have so many ideas. When someone takes away all my toys, I would, if they did it right now, if they took away all my toys, I'd go out in the yard and I'd start building my little my toys out of sticks and twigs and things. We're gonna have fun. So because my curiosity is always there, and I just always stay curious no matter what. And I know you guys are. But I appreciate you watching, guys. I'm gonna go grab some lunch. Subscribe on the channel if you're watching this. Subscribe for more updates, roadmaps for where we're gonna go next in the drone community, or in the RC community. Honestly, we're still gonna fly. Don't worry, we'll be okay. But click like so this video kind of climbs up in the ranks and doesn't get suppressed, because the drone community is being suppressed and the firearms community all the time. So we're just being pushed down in the algorithm. Algorithm doesn't like us now because of the way the world is and how paranoid everybody is. So don't be paranoid. Just go out and enjoy yourself and fly or drive your RC car, whatever it is you want to do in RC, man. I appreciate you guys. I think you're awesome. I know you're awesome. We need to have another event soon. But I appreciate you, and I will see you